The night is alive with the roar of the ocean, waves crashing against the hull of a lone ship as it cuts through the darkness. Lightning flashes, illuminating the silhouette of a crew battling against the storm, their faces set with determination. These were no ordinary sailors. They were the enigmatic seafarers who dared to venture beyond the edges of the known world. What drove them to set sail into the unknown, facing treacherous waters and unimaginable dangers? What secrets did they uncover in lands that no map had ever charted? Today, we'll journey back in time to uncover the untold stories of these fearless explorers, whose voyages reshaped the course of history. From their motivations to their discoveries, we'll unravel the mysteries of their expeditions and explore how their courage and curiosity left an indelible mark on the world. This is a tale of adventure, intrigue, and the relentless human spirit, a story that will leave you questioning what lies beyond the horizon. So, let's set sail together and dive into the depths of the past. Long before the age of compasses and detailed maps, the vast oceans were already being explored by civilizations whose ingenuity laid the foundation for all future maritime adventures. Among the first to master the art of seafaring were the Phoenicians, a people who thrived along the eastern Mediterranean coast around 3,000 years ago. Renowned for their shipbuilding skills and fearless spirit, they ventured far beyond their homeland, establishing trade networks that stretched across the known world. One of their most astonishing achievements was the circumnavigation of Africa, a journey that took them through uncharted waters and into the unknown. According to ancient records, they sailed south along the African coast, braving the unpredictable currents and shifting winds, before eventually returning to the Mediterranean from the opposite direction. This feat, completed without modern navigation tools, stands as a testament to their deep understanding of the sea and their ability to adapt to its challenges. Equally remarkable were the Polynesians, whose mastery of the Pacific Ocean remains one of history's greatest mysteries. Using only the stars, ocean swells, and the flight patterns of birds, they navigated thousands of miles across open water, settling remote islands scattered across the vast Pacific. Their double-hulled canoes, designed for both speed and stability, allowed them to carry people, plants, and animals to new lands, creating a network of interconnected societies long before Europeans even thought to cross the Atlantic. These early explorers didn't just sail for the sake of adventure. Their voyages were driven by necessity, trade, survival, and the pursuit of new opportunities. The Phoenicians, for example, sought valuable resources like tin and silver, while the Polynesians expanded their horizons in search of fertile lands. In doing so, they not only transformed their own societies but also paved the way for the exchange of ideas, goods, and cultures between distant regions. The stars they followed, the currents they charted, and the landmarks they memorized became the first threads in a global tapestry of exploration. As we look back at these ancient mariners, it's impossible not to marvel at their courage and resourcefulness. They set sail into the unknown with nothing but their wits and a deep respect for the natural world. And in doing so, they laid the groundwork for every great maritime journey that would follow, from the age of discovery to the modern era. Their stories remind us that the human drive to explore, to connect, and to understand our world is as timeless as the sea itself. Imagine setting sail across the vast, uncharted waters of the Pacific Ocean with no compass, no maps, and no certainty of what lies ahead. For the Polynesian Wayfinders, this wasn't just a daring adventure, it was a way of life. These master navigators, known for their extraordinary ability to read nature's signs, embarked on journeys that would challenge even the most seasoned modern sailor. Using the stars as their guide, the patterns of ocean swells, and even the flight paths of birds, they navigated thousands of miles of open water with astonishing precision. The Polynesians didn't just see the ocean as a barrier, they saw it as a highway. Their knowledge of the stars was unparalleled. At night, they relied on the positions of specific constellations to determine their direction. By day, they read the subtle shifts in ocean swells, understanding how waves reflected off distant islands, guiding them toward land. They even observed the behavior of seabirds, knowing that certain species would fly out to sea in the morning and return to land by evening, signaling the proximity of an island. One of their most legendary feats was the settlement of Hawaii, a journey that required crossing over 2,000 miles of open ocean. Another remarkable voyage led them to Easter Island, one of the most remote places on Earth. These weren't just acts of survival, they were deliberate, calculated expeditions driven by curiosity, ambition, and a profound respect for the natural world. But their journeys were more than just physical, they were deeply spiritual. The ocean wasn't just a means of travel, it was a living entity, a source of life and connection. Polynesian navigators believed that every wave, every star, and every bird carried messages from their ancestors. This bond with the sea shaped their culture, their identity, and their understanding of the world. As we marvel at their achievements, it's impossible not to wonder, how did these seafarers push the boundaries of the known world without the tools we rely on today? Their story reminds us that exploration isn't just about technology, it's about courage, ingenuity, and an unshakable connection to the environment. And speaking of pushing boundaries, our next chapter takes us to another group of explorers who dared to venture beyond the horizon, reshaping the map of the ancient world. The Viking explorers were more than just fierce warriors, they were master navigators and innovators whose daring voyages reshaped the map of the medieval world. At the heart of their success was the longship, a marvel of engineering that allowed them to conquer both rivers and oceans. Sleek and shallow drafted, these vessels could glide through narrow waterways or brave the open seas with equal ease. Their symmetrical design and flexible construction meant they could reverse direction without turning, a crucial advantage in uncharted waters. It was this combination of speed, agility, and durability that made the longship the ultimate tool of exploration. But where did these intrepid seafarers go? One of the most famous voyages was led by Leif Erikson, who sailed westward across the Atlantic around the year 1000. Landing in a place he called Vinland, Erikson and his crew became the first Europeans to set foot in North America centuries before Columbus. This journey wasn't just about discovery, it was a testament to the Vikings' relentless drive to push boundaries. Yet, Vinland wasn't destined to become a permanent settlement. The challenges of distance, hostile encounters, and limited resources forced the Vikings to retreat, leaving behind tantalizing clues of their presence. What drove these seafarers to venture so far from home? For the Vikings, exploration was a mix of necessity and ambition. Trade routes to distant lands promised wealth, from furs and amber to silver and slaves. But it wasn't just about material gain, conquest and prestige played a role too. Establishing new settlements and claiming lands for their clans brought power and honor. Yet their motivations weren't purely pragmatic. There was also a deep-seated curiosity, a desire to see what lay beyond the horizon. As we marvel at their achievements, one question lingers. Why did the Vikings eventually disappear from places like Vinland and other far-flung territories they once dominated? The answers lie in a complex web of factors, from shifting political landscapes to environmental changes. And it's this very mystery that leads us to the next chapter of their story, a tale of decline, adaptation, and the enduring legacy of these enigmatic seafarers. For centuries, the Vikings stood as masters of the seas, their longships carving paths across the Atlantic to places like Greenland and even North America. Yet their settlements in these distant lands were not permanent. Over time, these thriving communities vanished, leaving behind only ruins and questions. What could have driven these resilient explorers to abandon their hard-won territories? One of the most compelling theories points to the changing climate. During the so-called medieval warm period, Greenland's relatively mild conditions made farming possible. But as temperatures dropped during the Little Ice Age, the land became harsher, less forgiving. Crops failed, livestock struggled, and survival grew increasingly difficult. But climate alone doesn't tell the whole story. Resource depletion also played a significant role. The Vikings relied heavily on the land and sea for sustenance, and over time, they may have exhausted the very resources that sustained them. Forests were cut down for timber and fuel, reducing the materials needed for shipbuilding and heating. Overhunting of seals and other marine life could have further strained their food supply. Some historians argue that the Vikings' inability to adapt to these dwindling resources sealed their fate. Another factor often cited is the tension with indigenous populations. In places like North America, the Vikings encountered the Thule people, ancestors of the modern Inuit. While evidence of direct conflict is scarce, competition for resources and cultural differences may have made coexistence difficult. The Vikings, accustomed to being the dominant force, may have found themselves outmatched or outmaneuvered in unfamiliar territories. Yet, not all scholars agree on these explanations. Some suggest that the decline of trade with Europe, particularly Norway, left the Greenland settlements isolated and economically vulnerable. Others point to internal social or political struggles within the Viking communities themselves. The truth is likely a combination of these factors, a perfect storm of environmental, economic, and social pressures. What makes the Viking disappearance so haunting is the reminder of how fragile human endeavors can be in the face of nature's unpredictability. These were people who thrived in some of the most challenging environments on Earth, yet even they could not withstand the shifting tides of climate and circumstance. Their story serves as a poignant reflection on the impermanence of even the most ambitious human achievements. As we ponder the mysteries of the Viking settlements, it's worth turning our attention to another group of seafarers whose voyages left an indelible mark on history, the Polynesians. Their story, like that of the Vikings, is one of exploration, adaptation, and resilience, but it unfolds in a vastly different part of the world, under a different set of challenges and triumphs. In the early 15th century, while Europe was still navigating its way out of the Middle Ages, the Ming dynasty of China was launching one of the most extraordinary maritime endeavors in history, the voyages of Admiral Zheng and his treasure fleets. These expeditions were unlike anything the world had seen before. Picture this: colossal ships, some over 400 feet long, carrying tens of thousands of sailors, soldiers, and traders. To put that into perspective, these vessels were nearly 5 times the size of Columbus's Santa Maria, and they were part of a fleet that numbered in the hundreds. It was a floating city of wood and silk, bristling with the might and sophistication of a civilization at its zenith. But why did China send these fleets across the oceans? The answer lies in ambition and diplomacy. Zheng's voyages weren't just about exploration, they were a statement. The Ming dynasty sought to project its power, establish tributary relationships, and showcase the unparalleled wealth and technological prowess of China. From Southeast Asia to the coasts of Africa, these fleets carried gifts of silk, porcelain, and gold, leaving a trail of awe and admiration in their wake. They weren't conquerors, they were ambassadors of a civilization that believed itself the center of the world. Yet, as quickly as these voyages began, they came to an abrupt and mysterious end. After decades of maritime dominance, the Chinese treasure fleets were dismantled, their records burned, and their ships left to rot. Why would a civilization that had mastered the seas suddenly turn its back on them? Some historians point to internal politics, a shift in priorities toward defending against northern invaders, or even a growing belief that China had nothing to gain from the outside world. Whatever the reason, the decision marked the end of an era and the beginning of a mystery that still captivates us today. But the legacy of Zheng, his voyages, didn't disappear entirely. These fleets didn't just carry goods, they carried ideas, cultures, and connections that would ripple across the globe for centuries. And that brings us to the next chapter of this story, how these monumental journeys reshaped trade routes, sparked cultural exchanges, and left an indelible mark on the world, even if their memory was almost erased. Long before modern globalization, the oceans served as highways, weaving together the fates of distant civilizations. While the Silk Road is often celebrated for its overland connections, its maritime counterpart, the so-called Silk Road of the Seas, played an equally transformative role in shaping the ancient world. This vast network of sea routes linked the bustling ports of Asia, the Middle East, and Europe, fostering an unprecedented exchange of goods, ideas, and technologies. Imagine the scent of exotic spices wafting through the air as ships docked in Alexandria, their holds filled with cinnamon from Sri Lanka and pepper from the Malabar coast. These precious commodities weren't just luxury items, they were symbols of a world growing smaller, more connected, and more interdependent. The trade routes carried more than just spices. Chinese porcelain, delicate and prized, found its way to the tables of Persian nobles, while Arab merchants introduced glassware and textiles to East Asia. But it wasn't just material goods that traveled these waters. Innovations like the astrolabe, a tool for celestial navigation, spread from the Islamic world to Europe, revolutionizing seafaring. Even ideas and beliefs crisscrossed the seas, with Buddhism reaching new shores and Islamic art influencing cultures far beyond its birthplace. This exchange wasn't just about commerce, it was a meeting of minds, a blending of traditions that enriched every civilization it touched. The impact of these maritime routes extended far beyond their time. Cities like Guangzhou in China and Calicut in India became thriving hubs of global trade, their fortunes rising and falling with the tides of commerce. The wealth generated by these exchanges funded grand projects, from the construction of mosques and temples to the patronage of art and science. And as goods and ideas flowed, so did people. Sailors, merchants, and scholars from vastly different cultures found themselves side by side in bustling port cities, their interactions sowing the seeds of a more interconnected world. As we marvel at the legacy of these ancient trade routes, it's impossible not to wonder about the seafarers who made it all possible. Who were the men and women who braved the unpredictable seas, navigating by the stars and the whims of the wind? Their stories, often lost to time, hint at a world of courage, ingenuity, and ambition. And it's to one of the most mysterious groups of these seafarers, the enigmatic mariners of the Mediterranean, that we now turn our attention. The Minnons, a people of extraordinary ingenuity, rose to prominence in the Aegean Sea during the Bronze Age, carving out a maritime empire that still captivates historians today. Their ships, sleek and sturdy, were marvels of engineering for their time, built for both trade and exploration. With these vessels, the Minnons established a vast trading network that stretched across the Mediterranean, connecting distant lands from Egypt to the Levant. They weren't just merchants, they were cultural ambassadors, exchanging goods, ideas, and technologies that enriched civilizations far beyond their shores. But what truly set the Minnons apart was their mastery of navigation. They charted the seas with remarkable precision, relying on celestial observations and an intimate knowledge of wind patterns. This expertise allowed them to dominate the waters of the Mediterranean, turning Crete, their island home, into a bustling hub of commerce and culture. Their influence extended beyond trade, as seen in their stunning frescoes, intricate pottery, and the grandeur of their palaces like Knossos, which still stand as testaments to their artistic and architectural brilliance. Yet, for all their achievements, the Minoan story took a dramatic turn. Around the mid-2nd millennium BC, their civilization began to unravel. The exact cause remains shrouded in mystery, with theories ranging from catastrophic natural disasters like the eruption of Thera to invasions by outside forces. Whatever the reason, their decline marked the end of a golden age, leaving behind a legacy that continues to inspire awe and curiosity. As we reflect on the Minoans' contributions to art, architecture, and seafaring, it's impossible not to wonder how their knowledge influenced the civilizations that followed. Their innovations in navigation laid the groundwork for future explorers, and their cultural achievements echo through the ages. But they were not the only ancient people to leave their mark on the seas. As we move forward, let's turn our attention to another remarkable civilization, one whose ships and sailors ventured even farther into the unknown waters of the Atlantic and beyond. The Carthaginians, masters of the Western Mediterranean, were more than just traders, they were innovators of the seas. Emerging from the ancient city of Carthage in what is now Tunisia, they built an empire that stretched across the Mediterranean, fueled by their unparalleled maritime expertise. Their ships, sleek and swift, were marvels of ancient engineering designed to dominate both trade routes and battlefields. Unlike their contemporaries, the Carthaginians perfected the art of shipbuilding, crafting vessels that could navigate treacherous waters with ease and carry vast amounts of goods to distant shores. Their naval strategies were equally groundbreaking, combining speed, precision, and tactical ingenuity to outmaneuver rivals. But Carthage's rise to power inevitably brought it into conflict with another rising force, Rome. The rivalry between these two empires was not just a struggle for territory, it was a clash of cultures, ideologies, and ambitions. The Punic Wars, fought over more than a century, were some of the most significant conflicts of the ancient world. Carthage's legendary general, Hannibal, nearly brought Rome to its knees with his daring crossing of the Alps, but in the end, Rome's persistence and adaptability proved decisive. The fall of Carthage marked the end of an era, as Rome emerged as the dominant power in the Mediterranean. Yet, Carthage's legacy endured. Its maritime innovations influenced later civilizations, from the Byzantines to the Venetians, shaping the way future empires approached shipbuilding and naval warfare. As we reflect on the rise and fall of Carthage, it's impossible not to wonder about the stories that were lost to history. What secrets did their sailors carry across the waves? What untold tales of exploration and conquest lie buried beneath the sands of time? These questions lead us naturally to the next chapter of our journey, the myths and legends that have forever intertwined with the lives of ancient seafarers. The line between myth and history has always been a fascinating blur, especially when it comes to the tales of ancient seafarers. Stories like the lost city of Atlantis or the epic voyages of Odysseus have captivated imaginations for centuries. But what makes these legends so enduring? Were they purely the products of creative minds, or did they hold kernels of truth about the world as ancient people understood it? Take Atlantis, for example, a civilization said to have been swallowed by the sea. While there's no concrete evidence it ever existed, the story likely reflects real fears of natural disasters like earthquakes or tsunamis, events that could wipe entire cities off the map. Similarly, Odysseus's journey, filled with monsters, sirens, and treacherous seas, might symbolize the very real dangers of navigating uncharted waters. These myths weren't just entertainment, they were a way for ancient cultures to make sense of the unknown, to process their fears, and to dream of what might lie beyond the horizon. Even today, these stories continue to inspire, shaping how we think about exploration, adventure, and the mysteries of the deep. And speaking of mysteries, have you ever wondered how ancient sailors managed to navigate vast oceans without the technology we rely on today? That's exactly what we'll explore next as we dive into the tools and techniques that guided these daring explorers across the seas. The vast, uncharted oceans of the ancient world were not barriers to the intrepid seafarers of old. They were highways, navigated with skill and ingenuity. To traverse these endless waters, explorers relied on tools that turned the sky and sea into a map. Among the most remarkable of these was the astrolabe, an ancient device that allowed sailors to measure the angle of celestial bodies above the horizon. By aligning the astrolabe with the North Star or the Sun, mariners could determine their latitude, a crucial step in plotting their course across the open waters. But this was just one piece of the puzzle. In the Indian Ocean, Arab sailors used a simpler yet equally effective tool called the camel. This small wooden board, tied with knotted strings, helped sailors measure the altitude of stars to gauge their position. Each knot represented a specific latitude, making it a portable and practical solution for long voyages. Meanwhile, in the Pacific, Polynesian navigators developed their own celestial navigation system, the star compass. This mental map divided the horizon into sections, each associated with a particular star or constellation. By memorizing the rising and setting points of these stars, Polynesian explorers could sail vast distances with astonishing accuracy, even without physical instruments. These tools weren't just technological marvels, they were lifelines. Each instrument represented a leap in human understanding, a way to harness the natural world for survival and discovery. Over time, these methods evolved, leading to innovations like the cross staff and eventually the sextant, which refined the art of celestial navigation to unprecedented precision. Yet, even as technology advanced, the challenges these explorers faced remained immense. The open ocean was a place of wonder and terror, where a single miscalculation could mean disaster. And as we'll see next, the perils of the unknown were only part of the story. The open sea was no friend to ancient mariners. Beneath its shimmering surface lay a world of relentless danger. Storms that could swallow a ship whole, diseases that crept through the crew like a shadow, and the ever-present threat of starvation. One of the most infamous challenges was scurvy, a silent killer that struck down even the strongest sailors. Imagine setting sail with a hearty crew, only to watch them weaken week by week, their gums bleeding, their strength fading until they could barely stand. It wasn't until the late 18th century that the cure fresh citrus fruits was widely understood, but for centuries before that, scurvy was a grim companion on long voyages. Storms, however, offered no cure. The Mediterranean and Atlantic were notorious for sudden tempests that could shred sails, snap masts, and send ships plunging into the depths. One of the most famous shipwrecks of antiquity was the Syracusa, a massive vessel built by the ancient Greeks. Laden with treasures and grain, it met its fate in a violent storm, becoming a cautionary tale for future seafarers. These disasters weren't just tragedies, they were harsh lessons. Each shipwreck taught sailors how to build sturdier vessels, navigate more carefully, and respect the unpredictable power of the sea. Yet, despite the perils, these journeys also revealed the remarkable resilience of humanity. Sailors devised ingenious ways to store food, repair ships mid-voyage, and even navigate using the stars. Their survival wasn't just luck, it was a testament to human ingenuity and determination. And as they braved the unknown, they didn't just bring back goods and stories, they brought back knowledge that shaped entire cultures. The dangers of the sea didn't just test their limits, they transformed the way we see the world. The vast oceans, often seen as barriers, became bridges for some of the most profound cultural exchanges in human history. As seafarers ventured beyond the known world, they didn't just carry goods, they transported ideas, beliefs, and innovations that would transform societies across continents. Picture this, a ship laden with spices from the east also carried the teachings of Buddhism, spreading along what historians call the Silk Road of the Seas. These maritime routes connected distant lands, creating a vibrant network where religions, philosophies, and technologies flowed as freely as the tides. One striking example is the introduction of Buddhism to Southeast Asia. Traders and sailors from India, skilled in navigating the monsoon winds, brought with them not only precious cargo but also sacred texts and religious practices. Ports like Sri Lanka and Sumatra became hubs where Buddhist monks and scholars mingled with local populations, fostering a cultural fusion that shaped the spiritual landscape of the region for centuries. Similarly, the exchange wasn't one-sided. Ideas from the East, such as advanced shipbuilding techniques, found their way to the Mediterranean, influencing the design of vessels used by later European explorers. But it wasn't just ideas that traveled. The movement of crops across oceans had a profound impact on global diets and economies. Imagine a world without chili peppers in India or tomatoes in Italy, staples that seem inseparable from these cuisines today. These foods, originally native to the Americas, were introduced to Europe and Asia through the voyages of seafarers. The humble potato, for instance, transformed agriculture in Ireland, while sugarcane, carried from Southeast Asia to the Caribbean, reshaped entire economies and labor systems. Seafarers, often unsung heroes of history, acted as cultural ambassadors, weaving a tapestry of shared knowledge and traditions across the globe. Their journeys weren't just about conquest or commerce, they were about connection. And as we trace the legacy of these explorers, we begin to see how their voyages laid the groundwork for the interconnected world we live in today. But what exactly is that legacy? How did these ancient mariners shape the modern world? That's where our journey takes us next. The daring voyages of ancient seafarers didn't just vanish into the mists of time. They left an indelible mark on the world, shaping the course of history in ways that still resonate today. These intrepid explorers didn't merely sail into the unknown. They charted a path for the future, laying the groundwork for what would become the age of exploration centuries later. By venturing beyond familiar horizons, they expanded humanity's understanding of the world, creating the first detailed maps that would guide generations of navigators. Their journeys weren't just about discovery, they were about connection, linking distant lands through trade routes that carried not only goods but ideas, cultures, and knowledge. One of their most profound contributions was to the field of cartography. Ancient seafarers meticulously recorded coastlines, currents, and landmarks, compiling the earliest navigational charts. These maps, though rudimentary by today's standards, were revolutionary for their time, offering a glimpse of the world as a connected whole rather than a series of isolated regions. This knowledge didn't just stay within their own civilizations, it spread, influencing later explorers like Columbus and Magellan, who relied on these early insights to embark on their own historic voyages. But their impact went beyond maps and trade. These seafarers were cultural ambassadors, bridging gaps between societies that had never interacted before. Through their travels, they introduced new foods, technologies, and philosophies, fostering a sense of global interconnectedness that feels remarkably modern. Imagine the first time spices from the East reached the Mediterranean, or how ideas about astronomy and navigation were exchanged between distant cultures. These exchanges didn't just enrich individual societies, they laid the foundation for the globalized world we live in today. And let's not forget the sheer courage it took to set sail into the unknown. Without compasses, GPS, or even a clear understanding of the Earth's geography, these explorers relied on the stars, the wind, and their own instincts. Their voyages were acts of both curiosity and bravery, driven by a desire to understand the world and push its boundaries, that spirit of exploration, of daring to ask, what's out there? still inspires us today, whether we're venturing into space or diving into the depths of the ocean. Yet, even with all we know about these ancient mariners, there are still mysteries that linger. What drove them to take such incredible risks? How did they navigate with such precision? And what secrets of the seas did they carry to their graves? These questions remind us that despite their monumental achievements, there's still so much we don't know about their journeys, and that's where the intrigue truly begins. The voyages of ancient seafarers have left behind a trail of tantalizing mysteries, many of which remain unsolved to this day. How far did these intrepid explorers truly travel? Were their journeys limited to the known world, or did they venture into uncharted waters, perhaps even reaching distant continents long before history books suggest? One of the most enduring questions revolves around the fate of their lost ships' vessels that vanished without a trace, leaving behind only whispers of their existence in ancient texts and scattered artifacts. Did they succumb to storms, or could some have reached lands we've yet to discover? Theories about pre-Columbian transoceanic contact add another layer of intrigue. Could ancient seafarers from the Mediterranean or the Pacific have crossed vast oceans, establishing connections with the Americas centuries before Columbus? Some researchers point to cultural similarities, ancient maps, and even genetic evidence as potential clues. Yet, these theories remain hotly debated, with skeptics calling for more concrete proof. Could there have been maritime routes that history has forgotten, pathways that linked civilizations in ways we've only begun to imagine? These unanswered questions invite us to look beyond the surface of recorded history, to consider the possibility that ancient seafarers were far more daring and capable than we've given them credit for. Their stories remind us that the ocean, vast and unpredictable, still holds secrets waiting to be uncovered. And as we ponder these mysteries, it's worth turning our attention to another often overlooked aspect of ancient seafaring: the role of women. Far from being passive observers, women played crucial roles in these maritime adventures, shaping the course of history in ways that deserve recognition. While history often celebrates the daring exploits of male explorers, the waves were also navigated by women whose stories have been all but erased from the record. These forgotten seafarers, navigators, traders, and even pirates defied societal norms and carved their own paths across the oceans. Take, for instance, the legendary Grace O'Malley, the Irish pirate queen who commanded her own fleet and negotiated directly with Queen Elizabeth I. Or consider the Polynesian Voyages, women who played a vital role in guiding their people across vast stretches of the Pacific, using the stars, currents, and winds as their map. These women didn't just sail, they challenged the very fabric of their societies, proving that the sea was no place for gender boundaries. But life on the waves wasn't just about adventure, it was a constant battle against prejudice and exclusion. Many of these women disguised themselves as men to join crews, risking everything for a chance at freedom and discovery. Others, like the traders of ancient Southeast Asia, leveraged their skills in diplomacy and commerce to establish networks that spanned continents. Their contributions were immense, yet their stories remain buried under layers of male-dominated narratives. By shedding light on these figures, we not only reclaim their place in history, but also challenge the idea that exploration was a male-only domain. The sea, for these women, was more than a frontier, it was a symbol of liberation. It offered a rare space where they could defy societal expectations and chart their own destinies. Yet, beyond the physical challenges and societal barriers, the ocean also held a deeper, almost mystical significance. For many ancient cultures, the sea was not just a path to new lands, but a connection to the divine, a realm where the spiritual and the earthly intertwined. This brings us to the next chapter of our journey, where we'll explore the sacred dimensions of seafaring and the profound ways it shaped the beliefs and rituals of those who dared to venture beyond the horizon. For countless ancient cultures, the sea was far more than just a vast expanse of water. It was a powerful symbol woven deeply into their spirituality and mythology. To many, the ocean represented the duality of existence, both a source of life and a realm of chaos. In Mesopotamian myths, for instance, the god Tiamat embodied the primordial sea, a force of chaos that also gave birth to the world. Similarly, in Greek mythology, the sea god Poseidon ruled over the waters, capable of bestowing bounty or unleashing destruction with equal ease. This duality reflects how seafarers themselves viewed the ocean, a provider of sustenance and trade, yet also an unpredictable, often perilous domain. The sea also played a central role in religious rituals and beliefs. For the Polynesians, the ocean was a sacred pathway connecting them to their ancestors and the gods. They believed the waves carried the spirits of their forebears, guiding them on their voyages. In ancient Egypt, the Nile's annual flooding was seen as a divine act, bringing fertility to the land, while the Mediterranean symbolized the eternal cycle of life and death. These beliefs weren't just abstract ideas, they shaped how people interacted with the sea, from the rituals performed before a voyage to the offerings made to appease the gods. Art and storytelling further reveal how deeply the sea's symbolism resonated. Ancient Minoan frescoes depict dolphins leaping through waves, symbols of joy and protection, while Norse sagas speak of the sea as a treacherous realm, home to monstrous creatures like the Midgard serpent. These depictions remind us that the ocean was not just a physical space but a canvas for human imagination and spiritual expression. As seafarers ventured further into the unknown, their relationship with the sea evolved, but its symbolic power remained. It was a mirror reflecting their hopes, fears, and deepest beliefs. And while the sea shaped their lives in profound ways, their journeys also left their mark on the environment, a topic we'll explore next as we delve into the environmental impact of ancient seafaring and how these early explorers influenced the world around them. The ancient mariners who ventured across vast oceans left behind more than just stories of discovery. They also left a mark on the natural world. As these seafarers explored new lands and seas, their activities began to reshape the environments they encountered. Overfishing, for instance, became a significant issue in certain regions as coastal communities relied heavily on marine resources to sustain their voyages. Some ancient cultures even depleted local fish populations to the point of collapse, a reminder that the relationship between humans and the sea has always been complex. But it wasn't just overfishing that altered ecosystems. The movement of ships across the globe inadvertently introduced invasive species to new waters. Ships' ballast, often filled with water from one port, would be emptied in another, carrying organisms like mollusks, algae, and even small fish to unfamiliar habitats. These unintended travelers could outcompete native species, disrupting delicate ecological balances that had existed for millennia. It's a phenomenon we still grapple with today, though its roots stretch back to these early seafaring days. Yet not all ancient cultures approached the ocean with exploitation in mind. Some societies developed practices that reflected a deep understanding of sustainability. The Polynesians, for example, implemented strict taboos on fishing during certain seasons to allow fish populations to recover. Meanwhile, the Minnons of ancient Crete practiced early forms of marine conservation, managing their resources with a keen awareness of the sea's limits. These examples offer valuable lessons for modern conservation efforts, showing that harmony between human activity and environmental stewardship is not only possible but has been achieved in the past. The story of ancient seafaring and the environment is ultimately one of balance, a reminder that exploration and exploitation often go hand in hand. As we reflect on these historical practices, it's clear that the choices made by these early mariners still echo in the challenges we face today. And speaking of challenges, the next chapter in the story of seafaring takes us into the realm of warfare, where the ocean became not just a path to discovery, but a battlefield for power and dominance. Naval warfare in the ancient world was more than just a clash of ships. It was a battle of strategy, technology, and ambition. The control of the seas often determined the fate of empires, and nowhere is this more evident than in conflicts like the Battle of Salamis. Fought in 480 BC, this pivotal engagement saw the outnumbered Greek fleet outmaneuver the massive Persian navy, using the narrow straits to their advantage. The victory didn't just secure Greece's survival, it marked the beginning of a shift in power that would ripple across the ancient world. Ships were more than tools of war, they were instruments of empire. From the Phoenicians to the Romans, maritime powers used their navies to project influence far beyond their shores. The trireme, with its 3 rows of oars and bronze ramming prow, became a symbol of naval dominance. But it wasn't just about brute force. Advancements in shipbuilding and navigation allowed these ancient seafarers to travel farther, faster, and with greater precision. The development of the lateen sail, for example, revolutionized how ships harnessed the wind, enabling longer voyages and more efficient trade routes. Weaponry, too, evolved alongside these vessels. Fire, catapults, and grappling hooks turned ships into floating fortresses, capable of devastating enemy fleets. Yet the true power of naval warfare lay in its ability to connect distant lands not just through conquest, but through the exchange of ideas, goods, and cultures. The Phoenicians, for instance, built their empire not only on military might but also on their mastery of trade, using their ships to establish colonies and trade networks that stretched from the Mediterranean to the Atlantic. This intersection of exploration and conquest shaped the ancient world in profound ways. Naval power wasn't just about winning battles, it was about controlling the flow of resources, information, and people. And as empires grew, so too did their reliance on the sea. But what drove this relentless pursuit of maritime dominance? Was it the lure of new lands, the promise of wealth, or something deeper? As we consider the strategic importance of naval power, it's impossible to ignore its economic implications. The wealth generated by seafaring didn't just fund empires, it transformed them. From the trade routes that connected civilizations to the ports that became hubs of commerce, the economic impact of ancient seafaring was as significant as its military achievements. But that's a story for the next chapter. The vast oceans were not just barriers to ancient civilizations, they were highways of opportunity, connecting distant lands and driving the engines of economic growth. For centuries, maritime trade served as the lifeblood of thriving empires, creating wealth, sparking innovation, and reshaping the world as we know it. At the heart of this economic revolution were bustling ports, where goods from across the known world were exchanged. Cities like Alexandria, Carthage, and Guangzhou became hubs of commerce, their harbors teeming with ships carrying spices, silks, and precious metals. These ports weren't just places of trade, they were melting pots of culture and ideas, where merchants from different corners of the globe exchanged not only goods but also knowledge and technologies. One of the most iconic examples of this economic power was the spice trade. Spices like cinnamon, pepper, and cloves were worth their weight in gold, and the demand for these exotic flavors drove nations to explore uncharted waters. The quest for spices didn't just enrich merchants, it funded entire empires. The Roman Empire, for instance, relied heavily on maritime trade routes to bring luxury goods from the East, which in turn fueled its economy and solidified its dominance. Similarly, the so-called Silk Road of the Seas, a network of maritime routes connecting Asia, the Middle East, and Europe, became a critical artery of commerce. This network didn't just transport goods, it facilitated the exchange of ideas, art, and even religions, creating a web of interconnected cultures that span the globe. The economic impact of seafaring extended far beyond trade itself. The wealth generated by maritime commerce funded the construction of grand cities, the development of new technologies, and the expansion of empires. Take, for example, the city of Venice. Built on a lagoon and with no significant agricultural resources, Venice turned to the sea for its survival. Through shrewd trade deals and a powerful navy, it became one of the wealthiest and most influential cities of the medieval world. Its success wasn't just measured in gold, but in the flourishing of art, architecture, and science that its maritime wealth made possible. But the story of ancient seafaring isn't just one of economics, it's also a story of human ambition and imagination. As merchants and sailors ventured into the unknown, they brought back tales of distant lands and strange cultures, inspiring artists and writers to capture the allure of the sea. From the epic voyages of Odysseus in Greek mythology to the intricate maps drawn by Arab cartographers, the sea became a canvas for creativity and a symbol of exploration. This artistic and literary legacy offers us a glimpse into how ancient societies viewed the oceans not just as sources of wealth but as gateways to the unknown, filled with mystery and possibility. The stories of ancient seafarers didn't just survive through the waves, they lived on in the art, literature, and folklore of their time, leaving a vivid imprint on human creativity. Take, for instance, Homer's epic Odyssey, where the sea is both a pathway and a peril, a force that tests the limits of human endurance and ingenuity. Odysseus's journey isn't just a tale of adventure. It's a reflection of the ancient world's awe and fear of the unknown, a reminder of how the ocean could be both a giver of life and a taker of dreams. Through Odysseus's trials, we see how seafaring became a metaphor for the human condition, a way to explore themes of resilience, fate, and the boundaries of courage. But it wasn't just in epic poetry that seafarers left their mark. Look to the Minoan frescoes of ancient Crete, where vibrant depictions of ships and maritime life adorn the walls of palaces. These artworks, some over 3,000 years old, capture the essence of a civilization deeply connected to the sea. The ships in these frescoes aren't mere decorations. They're symbols of power, trade, and exploration, revealing how the Minoans saw themselves as masters of the waves. The intricate details, from the billowing sails to the rhythmic oars, suggest a culture that celebrated its maritime prowess while acknowledging the dangers that came with it. Folklore, too, played a vital role in shaping how seafarers were remembered. Across cultures, legends of sea monsters, sirens, and ghost ships emerged, embodying the fears and mysteries of the deep. These stories weren't just entertainment, they were cautionary tales, warnings of what lay beyond the horizon. Yet they also carried a sense of wonder, a testament to humanity's unending curiosity about the vast, untamed ocean. Through these tales, we see how seafaring became a canvas for exploring the tension between danger and discovery, fear and fascination. What's remarkable is how these artistic and literary depictions continue to resonate today. From the Odyssey to modern novels and films, the legacy of ancient seafarers endures, inspiring new generations to dream of distant shores. Their stories remind us that the sea has always been more than just water. It's a mirror of our hopes, fears, and the boundless spirit of exploration. And speaking of exploration, it wasn't just art and legend that was shaped by the sea. The next chapter in this story takes us to the role of seafaring in scientific discovery, where ancient mariners became pioneers of knowledge, charting not only new lands but also the stars above. The vast, uncharted oceans were not just barriers to be crossed. They were gateways to profound scientific discovery, ancient seafarers, driven by curiosity and necessity, became pioneers of knowledge, reshaping humanity's understanding of the natural world. As they ventured beyond familiar shores, they didn't just map coastlines, they mapped the stars, charted the winds, and documented life forms never before seen by human eyes. Take astronomy, for example. Sailors navigating by the night sky didn't just rely on existing constellations, they discovered new ones. The Southern Cross, a celestial landmark for mariners in the Southern Hemisphere, was unknown to many ancient cultures until seafarers brought it to light. These discoveries weren't just about navigation, they expanded humanity's cosmic perspective, showing that the heavens were far more vast and varied than anyone had imagined. Geography, too, was transformed by maritime exploration. As ships traced new routes, they revealed the true shape of continents and the interconnectedness of distant lands. Sailors documented ocean currents, tides, and weather patterns, laying the groundwork for modern meteorology and oceanography. These observations weren't just practical, they were revolutionary, challenging long-held beliefs about the Earth's structure and the limits of human exploration. And then there was biology. Imagine the awe of sailors encountering creatures like the giant squid or the dugong for the first time. These encounters weren't just thrilling, they were scientifically significant. Seafarers brought back specimens, sketches, and stories that expanded the known boundaries of life on Earth. Their observations contributed to early theories about biodiversity and the interconnectedness of ecosystems, even if they didn't yet have the language to describe it. The voyages of these ancient mariners were more than journeys across water. They were journeys of the mind. Every new coastline, every strange star, every unknown creature sparked questions and inspired inquiry. Their explorations didn't just expand the map, they expanded the very way humanity thought about the world. But as much as these voyages were driven by curiosity, they were also shaped by the immense challenges of life at sea. The mental and emotional toll of long journeys into the unknown was immense, testing the limits of human endurance. And that brings us to the next chapter of this story, the psychological struggles of seafaring and how they shaped the men and women who dared to venture into the unknown. The life of an ancient seafarer was not just a test of physical endurance but a profound psychological journey. Imagine setting sail into an endless expanse of water with no guarantee of return, no maps to guide you, and no way to communicate with the world you left behind. The isolation alone was enough to break even the strongest minds. These explorers faced weeks, sometimes months, of being cut off from land, surrounded only by the vast, unyielding ocean. The fear of the unknown, what lay beyond the horizon or beneath the waves, was a constant companion, lingering in the back of their minds with every gust of wind or ripple in the water. To cope with these immense pressures, ancient seafarers developed rituals and traditions that provided a sense of control and comfort in an otherwise unpredictable environment. They turned to the stars not just for navigation but as a source of spiritual guidance, believing the heavens held answers to their fates. Storytelling became a lifeline, a way to pass the long hours and keep morale high. Tales of legendary voyages, mythical sea creatures, and gods who ruled the waves weren't just entertainment. They were a way to make sense of the mysteries they encountered. And then there was camaraderie. Sharing the journey with a tight-knit crew created bonds of trust and solidarity, reminding each sailor that they weren't alone in their struggles. This resilience, forged in the crucible of the open sea, speaks to the extraordinary human spirit. These explorers weren't just navigating waters, they were navigating their own fears, doubts, and limitations. Their ability to endure, adapt, and find meaning in the face of uncertainty is a testament to the strength of the human psyche. But their voyages did more than shape their individual lives. They also left an indelible mark on the cultures and nations they represented. As we'll see next, the role of seafaring went far beyond exploration. It became a cornerstone in the formation of national identities, uniting people under shared myths, ambitions, and legacies. The vast oceans didn't just connect distant lands, they also shaped the very identities of nations. Maritime exploration became a source of immense pride and a defining feature of cultural heritage. Take the Vikings, for instance. Their daring voyages across the North Atlantic not only expanded their reach, but also cemented their reputation as fearless seafarers. Today, Scandinavia still celebrates this legacy, with Viking ships and sagas serving as powerful symbols of resilience and ambition. It's a reminder that the sea was more than a frontier, it was a stage for forging national character. Then there's the Portuguese Age of Discovery, a period that transformed a small nation into a global powerhouse. Under the leadership of explorers like Vasco da Gama and Prince Henry the Navigator, Portugal charted new routes to India and beyond, establishing an empire that stretched across continents. These achievements weren't just about trade or territory, they became a source of immense national pride. The Portuguese saw themselves as pioneers, their identity intertwined with the spirit of adventure that drove their ships to uncharted waters. But it wasn't just about conquest or commerce. Seafaring also inspired a sense of collective purpose and ambition. The stories of these voyages were passed down through generations, fueling a cultural narrative of bravery and discovery. They reminded people that the unknown wasn't something to fear but something to embrace. This mindset didn't just shape the past, it influenced how nations saw themselves and their place in the world. As we reflect on the cultural significance of these journeys, it's impossible not to wonder how this spirit of exploration continues to shape us today. And speaking of the future, what lies ahead for maritime exploration? How will modern advancements and challenges redefine our relationship with the oceans? That's where we're headed next as we dive into the evolving world of seafaring and what it means for the generations to come. The legacy of ancient seafarers, those daring explorers who ventured beyond the horizon, continues to echo in the modern world. Their spirit of discovery and relentless curiosity hasn't faded, it's evolved. Today, we see their influence in the way we explore not just the oceans, but the vast frontiers of space and the uncharted depths of our own planet. Deep-sea diving technologies, for instance, allow us to uncover mysteries hidden beneath the waves, from ancient shipwrecks to undiscovered species thriving in the darkest parts of the ocean. These advancements are a direct continuation of the seafaring tradition, driven by the same urge to understand what lies beyond the known, but it doesn't stop there. The same curiosity that propelled ancient sailors to map the seas now fuels our efforts to map the cosmos. Space exploration, in many ways, is the modern equivalent of maritime exploration. Just as sailors once navigated by the stars, we now use those stars as destinations. The technology that once guided wooden ships across treacherous waters now powers spacecraft through the void of space. It's a testament to how far we've come, yet how deeply rooted we remain in the exploratory spirit of our ancestors. What's truly remarkable is how these advancements have expanded our understanding of the universe. Modern tools like sonar mapping, satellite imaging, and robotic probes have replaced the compass and astrolabe, but the goal remains the same: to push the boundaries of human knowledge. Every discovery, whether in the depths of the ocean or the far reaches of space, reminds us of our shared history as explorers. It's a history defined not just by the tools we've created, but by the unyielding desire to seek out the unknown. This enduring spirit of exploration isn't just about technology or achievement, it's about the human drive to uncover the mysteries of existence. The ancient seafarers didn't have the answers, but they had the courage to ask the questions. And in many ways, we're still asking those same questions today. What lies beyond the horizon? What secrets does the universe hold? these are the questions that keep us moving forward, connecting us to the past while propelling us into the future. As we near the end of our journey through the enigmatic world of these ancient mariners, it's worth reflecting on how their legacy shapes not just how we explore, but why we explore. Their stories remind us that the unknown isn't something to fear, it's something to embrace. And as we'll see in our final section, this timeless pursuit of discovery is what binds us all, across centuries and civilizations, in a shared quest to understand the world around us. As we draw the story of these enigmatic seafarers to a close, it's impossible not to marvel at the sheer courage and ingenuity that drove them to venture beyond the edges of the known world. These explorers, armed with little more than rudimentary tools and an unyielding spirit, charted courses into the unknown, defying the limits of their time and reshaping the way humanity understood its place in the world. Their voyages were not just journeys across oceans, but leaps of faith into the uncharted, driven by an insatiable curiosity that continues to inspire us today. The legacy of these seafarers is more than just the maps they drew or the lands they discovered. It's a testament to the power of human ambition and the relentless pursuit of knowledge. They remind us that exploration is not just about reaching new destinations, but about pushing the boundaries of what we believe is possible. In their stories, we find lessons for our own lives, the importance of resilience in the face of uncertainty, the value of collaboration across cultures, and the courage to step into the unknown even when the path ahead is unclear. As we reflect on their enduring impact, let us also consider how their spirit of discovery lives on in us. Whether it's exploring new ideas, embracing unfamiliar experiences, or simply asking questions that challenge the status quo, we all have the capacity to be explorers in our own way. The world may no longer have uncharted seas, but there are still countless frontiers waiting to be discovered both within and around us. To close, let's turn to the words of the great explorer Fridtjof Nansen, who once said, "The difficult is what takes a little time, the impossible is what takes a little longer." These seafarers proved that the impossible could indeed be achieved, and their legacy invites us to do the same. So, as you go about your day, I encourage you to embrace that same spirit of curiosity and adventure. What uncharted territories will you explore? What questions will you dare to ask? Let's continue this journey of discovery together. If this story resonated with you, share your thoughts in the comments below. What lessons from these seafarers inspire you most? And don't forget to subscribe for more tales of courage, mystery, and the enduring human spirit. Until next time, keep exploring because the world is full of wonders waiting to be uncovered.